Look at them all. Oh, dating.
Date! 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 Dating. Maybe go on a date?
Alright, fellow time travelers, Sentimental Cindy here, and today we're rewinding to a world where dating meant no swiping, no ghosting, and definitely no "you up?" texts at 1 a.m. This was the 1970s and 1980s, a simpler, sweatier time when your dating app was basically your personality. If you wanted a flirt, you needed a payphone and a pocket full of change.
Bunch of payphones. Business.
Payphones are 35 cents now.
And a halfway decent pickup line that didn't involve quoting Star Wars. Seriously, flirting back then meant risking it all with a cheesy pickup line and a smile.
Actual pickup line.
And trust me, some of those lines were terrible. Like, if I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me? As if that was going to win me over or anyone over. And spoiler alert, it didn't. But points for commitment, I guess. Let's talk about my love life during this era. Or maybe let's just call it my love ugh life. It was full of one-offs. Truly one and done. My very first boy date was arranged by my older sister and her boyfriend, whose matchmaking standards were basically, he's 14, she's 14, what could go wrong?
Matchmaker.
Honestly, I was excited. I even journaled about it in my diary like it was a royal engagement. They took us to Disneyland, which sounds magical if you like your date. But if you don't, Disneyland turns into Tragic Land, where it's less fantasy land and more awkward land. He was sweet but painfully shy. I think he said maybe 4 words the entire night, and I had to lead every single conversation, which for 14-year-old me was basically social torture. Standing in line felt like an eternity. Just the two of us, surrounded by strangers, me frantically searching for anything to say while he stared at his shoelaces. I went in thinking this might be the start of something special, and left feeling like I'd wasted a perfectly good outfit and all my best lip smackers lip gloss on a total dud. But hey, that was just the beginning of my teenage dating saga in the 70s and 80s, full of weird moments, one-time wonders, and some unexpected lesson. More juicy stories like that one will be sprinkled in along the way. So fasten those seatbelts like you're blasting off on Space Mountain, because Chapter 1 is where we rewind and dive into how teens actually found each other back then, before swipes, DMs, and dating apps turned dating into a whole new ride. And if this already brings back memories, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more 70s and 80s deep dives. Chapter 1, where the magic happened, meeting IRL, or in real life. Back then, finding a date wasn't just a swipe away, it was an event. You met people the old-fashioned way, in person, and usually in the most gloriously awkward of places. School dances with harsh fluorescent lighting and lukewarm punch. Church youth groups where everyone was trying to be holy and flirty at the same time. Roller rinks where you'd accidentally fall near someone cute, just in time for the couple skate and a slow song. And let's not forget ice rinks, especially in winter, where holding hands while pretending not to fall was a socially acceptable excuse to flirt. It was all about proximity, shared fries, and the occasional elbow bruise. I met a guy at an ice skating rink once, and honestly, I can't even remember his name. We were about 15 or 16, and after skating and barely talking, he asked me out. Guess where? Yep, the same ice skating rink. Yawn. When it came time to pick me up, I panicked and begged my friend to come with me. She squeezed into the back seat with another couple who I awkwardly tried to make conversation with a guy I barely knew. The date was fine, nothing earth-shattering, but when he dropped me off at my door that evening, he leaned in and tried to French kiss me. Ooh! I didn't like him that much. He called to ask me out again, but I lied and said I had plans 3 weekends in a row. He just said I tried and hung up. Message received. The mall was a total hotspot, where a glance in the food court could spark a crush that lasted a week, or at least until next Friday. Under neon lights and the hum of escalators, we loiter with greasy trays of pizza slices and orange Julius, scoping each other out like it was a middle school mating ritual. It was basically Fast Times at Richmond High come to life. If you were lucky, you caught someone's eye while pretending to be super into your fries. If you were really lucky, they asked to share your table, or at least handed you a napkin. And then there was the record store.
Ah, the record store.
It's called a record store.
A sacred space for casual loitering and high-stakes people watching. You'd flip through the vinyl trying to look effortlessly cool while debating whether to buy the Rex Smith album or go all in on Andy Gibb. Growing up in California, the beach was a prime pickup spot. We were totally checking everyone out behind our sunglasses, getting sunburned from the baby oil we slathered on, and still trying to look cute while sweating through our sea and ski. If you brought your boombox and blasted Hall & Oates or the Go-Go's, it was basically casting a fishing line for flirts. Sometimes you'd accidentally lose your beach ball near a cute guy's towel, or perfectly time your dip in the ocean to cross paths. Sand, sun, and spray on copper tone. It was awkward teen romance with a tan. I even flirted with a boy once at my great-grandma's funeral, no joke. I was laying on the charm in the buffet line at my cousin's house, but the second he casually mentioned his girlfriend, I knew the game was over. Some people met through school friends. Others had brave cousins or scheming siblings who played matchmaker. And then there were the neighbors, always watching, always whispering. If a boy your age moved in down the street, word spread fast, and suddenly your mom was nudging you to bring over a plate of cookies just to be friendly. But if your aunt got involved, forget it. That was a high-stakes operation. Aunts back then treated matchmaking like a divine calling.
I've hired a matchmaker.
Matchmaker, matchmaker, maybe.
You go on one polite movie date, and 5 minutes later after you got home, the rotary phone was already ringing. So, should I tell her mother it's a yes? Aunts had alliances, reputations, and long-running narratives. You were just the lead character in their personal dating soap opera. Most of us met our first serious crushes in high school, though, filled with all the awkward, sweet moments that come with teenage love. There were school dances where nerves ran high, like the time my 15-year-old boyfriend got a little too handsy and I dropped him like a hot potato. Then came the thrill of going steady, proudly wearing a guy's class ring on a chain around your neck like it was an engagement ring. Holding hands in the hallways felt like the ultimate secret, and stealing a quick kiss behind the bleachers was nothing short of thrilling. Of course, the big events like homecoming crowned kings and queens with all the pomp and teenage drama leading up to prom, the night everyone dreamed about. I ended up asking a good friend of mine who was only a sophomore but mature beyond his years to my senior prom since no one else asked me. We might not have been the typical prom couple, but we had a blast making our own kind of memories. And of course, the infamous game of spin the bottle. Nothing said romance like nervously praying the bottle didn't land on you, or, depending on the crowd, hoping it did. My own spin the bottle moment? It landed on a boy I had a serious crush on, who later confessed his undying love, only to never call me again. Welcome to teenage dating in the 70s and 80s. Part cringe, part charm, and drenched in lip gloss. Chapter 2. The Fashion Police and Unofficial Dating Rules. Dating had rules in the 70s and 80s, and rule number 1, look cute. Effortlessly, because Prince Charming could appear anywhere, like the bra aisle of JCPenney next to your mom. Ugh, so mortifying. Nobody left the house without a giant comb sticking out of their back pocket, essential for keeping those feathered Farrah Fawcett or Sean Cassidy layers perfectly fluffed. And by the way, Sean was actually my first concert, and yes, I absolutely had to have that satin jacket. I'd spend a solid hour curling my Farrah cut, then slip into my ditto jeans, a crisp button down, a stretchy gold belt, and towering macrame shoes with 3-inch block heels, and sometimes even leg warmers, even though I wasn't headed anywhere near a dance studio. Fashion magazine ads were my vibe. Sun in was a must, even if it turned my hair orange. Candy's heels clack like I'm in business, and I practically marinated in copper tone, chasing that perfect California glow. Mall stores like Contempo Casuals and Show Off were totally my retail therapy, but I worked at Windsor Fashions for a few months, and honestly it was pure torture. Hours of standing in high heels, greeting customers with a forced smile, and enduring non-stop top 40 music. I mean, how many times can you hear PYT, Pretty Young Thing by Michael Jackson? And yes, we actually sold one glove, or the safety dance, before you start to lose it. And don't even get me started on the sneaky co-workers. Girls would literally steal my sale by scribbling their name on the back of my customer's tag. Total girl drama, all hairspray, hustle, and high-stakes competition. But beyond the fashion, dating back then was deeply personal. A glance could mean everything. A mixtape? Practically a marriage proposal. Calling your crush meant building up courage, praying their dad didn't answer, and braving the world's longest awkward silence. No texting, no ghosting, just nerves, effort, and heart. My girlfriend and I made a deal. She'd call, on the payphone mind you, to break up with my boyfriend, the handsy one, and I did the same with hers. And when we were freshmen, my friend bravely called up 2 seniors that we had crushes on and asked them to sit with us at a football game. And they did. Nothing came of it, though, except sore necks from craning to make sure everyone saw us sitting with seniors, and the thrill in knowing we dared to take a chance. And it paid off. Well, kind of. Dating back then was messy, sweet, and totally analog. And honestly, that's what made it unforgettable. Chapter 3. Dating without tech. How did we even do it? I met my first serious boyfriend at my very first job, a police department of all places. I was a secretary's assistant, he was a jailer. A match made in heaven, or not. Here's the kicker. He was actually engaged when we went out for the first time. Yep, I knew that going in, but somehow we broke it off with her to date me for, well, about 5 years. Sort of. We had 3 solid years, then I broke it off to try dating someone else. That didn't work, so I begged him to take me back, and he did. And then we did 2 more years. In the end, we were better off as friends and soulmates. And we managed all those years without today's tech. Just the telephone and good old-fashioned talking in person. Try to imagine a world without smartphones, texts, or social media. That was dating in the 70s and 80s. Communication meant using a corded phone, usually shared by the entire family, so privacy was basically non-existent. Calling your crush's house meant praying that mom or dad wouldn't be the one to answer, and if they did, you'd be greeted with that dreaded stern, "Who is this?" hanging thick in the air. You had 2 choices, nervously blurt out, is Mike home? Or panic and hang up, hoping to catch the right person next time around. And don't forget the dreaded busy signal. When you called up just as someone was on the line, it was a race to keep trying before they hung up. Waiting for a call was the ultimate test of patience. You'd sit by the phone, eyes glued to the receiver, willing it to ring, as if staring at it would make it happen any faster. Without caller ID, there was no way to screen prank calls or dodge unwanted interruptions. There were no quick texts to confirm plans or check if being late was okay. Just the silence that left you wondering, did they forget, change their mind, or were they just as nervous as you? I guess we'll never know. And then there was the endless battle to convince your parents to get you your own phone line so you could chat away with your boyfriend or girlfriends without interruptions. Mine weren't having it, so I got plenty of, "Cindy, get off the phone, I'm trying to make a call." Those long phone cords were a blessing though, perfect for stretching the line into another room to steal some privacy. The only downside? Dial phones before push buttons made life easier meant slow, clunky calls and a serious workout just to make it through a conversation. Handwritten letters were a treasured part of flirting and communication. My friends and I would scribble notes in class and toss them across the room, praying they'd reach the right hands instead of hitting the floor. I was in 6th period in a class taught by my friend's cousin, so I got a little bold with my note throwing. One time he caught a note meant for someone else and gave me a glare that clearly said, "Really? Using my family status for this? Oops, my bad." But there was something magical about putting your feelings down on paper. These notes weren't just folded up scraps, they were tiny time capsules of teenage emotion. Every word carried weight. Every doodle meant something. It was a slow dance of ink and intention. Flirting on paper, sealed with perfume. Our version of texting, but with way more heart. If you remember any of these 70s and 80s rites of passage or have memories of your own, I'd love to hear about it. Drop your favorite story in the comments, and don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more blasts from the past. Chapter 4, Rules, Rituals, and Romantic Code. My bestie and I used to cruise the mall parking lot, no joke. We just drive around and around, hoping to spot guys we wanted to park and hang out with. She drove a Camaro with a killer 8-track player. Cruising was serious business back then, in mall parking lots and down Hollywood Boulevard. The guys would roll down their windows and shout, "Hey, you're cute, pull over." And then we'd spend the rest of the night flirting and laughing. It's wild to think about it now, with smartphones and social media everywhere, but back then, cruising was our way to connect, have fun, and make memories. There were rules too. Wait 3 days to call after a date. Not too eager, not too aloof. Too soon meant desperation. Too late, and you risked losing them. Finding the balance was a nerve-wracking dance in itself. Flirting was an art. You wanted to seem interested, but mysterious enough to keep them guessing. A coy smile here, a casual brush of the hair there, but never too much. And if you received a note that said, "Do you like me?" check yes or no. It was a moment of intense decision making. One wrong move and your whole social status might wobble. First dates were sweet and simple. Grabbing ice cream or frozen yogurt, catching a movie, or cruising around town with the radio playing. It wasn't about fancy restaurants or elaborate plans. It was about spending time together, discovering each other's quirks, and maybe sharing a shy kiss behind the jukebox. I spent 5 summers at Christian camp as a teenager, and the big dance was the event you couldn't miss. Girls waited anxiously for that boy to ask them to dance to hits like Jive Talkin' by the Bee Gees and Jackie Blue by the Ozark Mountain Daredevils. Then, if you were lucky, you'd sneak off to a quiet spot to make out before returning to the campfire later that night, proudly showing off the boy who picked you, especially to the other girls you secretly hoped were jealous. Ah, young love. Movie dates were a classic staple of the 70s and 80s dating scene. I remember packed theaters where you prayed you and your date could find 2 seats together. Once I even drove a guy to see For Your Eyes Only, a James Bond flick, because he didn't drive yet. Well, I was older. It was another one of those dull one-off dates, but at least we didn't have to worry about turning off our phones. And who can forget double features? They were a big deal back then in both theaters and drive-ins. Until disco fever faded and double features went out of style. Then there were mixtapes. Making one for someone was like pouring your heart into a cassette. And when someone made one for you, it felt like every song was handpicked just for you, like a secret message wrapped in a melody. You'd listen to those songs, dreaming about that person and wondering if they were listening to them too. It wasn't just about the music though, it was about the time, the thought, and emotion woven into every track. In a world without instant messages, those tapes spoke louder than words ever could. Chapter 5: When Pop Culture Shaped Our Hearts.
No pop culture references.
You are literally pop culture illiterate.
Pop culture was the ultimate dating coach in the 70s and 80s. TV shows like The Love Boat, Three's Company, and Love American Style painted romance as a blend of fun, flirtation, and just the right amount of drama. Meanwhile, movies like Grease and Say Anything set the bar high for grand gestures and heartfelt confessions, making us believe that love should be bold, spontaneous, and unforgettable. Grease was my absolute favorite. My best friend and I saw it 10 times the summer it came out, quoting every line, memorizing every lyric, and blasting the soundtrack in the car like it was our personal anthem. Years later, I went to a Grease sing-along at a local movie theater, hoping to relive that magic. It was cute, but it didn't quite compare to the thrill of seeing it for the first time, or even the 10th. Some moments are just meant to live in the glow of nostalgia. Valentine's Day episodes of our favorite shows were basically instructional videos on how to woo someone. Teen magazines were packed with quizzes about your perfect match, tips for impressing your crush, and secret signals to send without saying a word. Valentine's Day at my high school was a huge deal. You'd buy carnations with personalized notes to hand out to every crush in your hormone radius. Music was, and still is, my heartbeat, and the soundtrack of the 70s and 80s was pure magic. From power ballads to sweet serenades, those songs didn't just entertain us, they taught us how love should feel. I'll never forget listening to ELO's Telephone Line on a family beach vacation in August of 1977, just as the news broke that Elvis had died. The moment hit hard, especially for my mom, who was a big fan. But that summer still had its own soundtrack. Undercover Angel, Lonely Boy, and Cats in the Cradle were just a few of the songs that shaped my world. Bittersweet, poppy, and unforgettable. But it wasn't just TV shows and music that shaped our love lives. Soap operas like General Hospital kept us glued with the epic saga of Luke and Laura, serving up romance drama like no other. I'd spend hours watching old movies and classic TV shows, soaking in all the love stories they had to offer. Saturday morning cartoons and even cheesy commercials played their part too. Remember those fragrance ads like Love's Baby Soft and shampoo ads like, "Gee, your hair smells terrific," promising you'd be absolutely irresistible? Pop culture gave us endless ideas of what romance could be, even if in real life it didn't always live up to the hype. And let's not forget the ultimate pop culture crushes, the celebrities who ruled our hearts and bedroom walls. Autographed photos and glossy posters of dreamy TV stars were prized decorations in any teenage room. We crushed hard on boys from our favorite shows, David Cassidy and the Partridge Family, Greg from the Brady Bunch, and my personal favorites, Dirk Benedict and Richard Hatch from Battlestar Galactica. I was so smitten with Richard Hatch, I'd tape record the show on a cassette and put it under my pillow at night, hoping to dream about him. These weren't just TV characters, they were the gold standard of cool, charming, and totally swoon-worthy. Collecting their pictures, joining their fan clubs, and imagining what it would be like to date someone like them was all part of growing up in the 70s and 80s. Sometimes dates were awkward, confessions went unsaid, and crushes weren't returned. But we clung to the love stories we saw on TV, in movies, and in the pages of Tiger Beat. Remember Leif Garrett? dreaming that one day our own lives would look just as magical. Pop culture gave us a blueprint for love. Big, bold, and sometimes messy, but always worth it. And even when real-life romance fell short, those daydreams kept our hearts hopeful. So who was your ultimate TV crush back in the day? Drop it in the comments. No judgment if it was Scott Baio or Linda Carter. Chapter 6. The Social Cliques and the Dating Minefield. Oh, the cliques. Let's not forget those. Back then, they were more rigid than an 80s perm. You had your jocks, your cheerleaders, your nerds, your burnouts. And crossing social lines? Well, it was a total dating minefield. If a theater kid got asked out by a football player, it was like a crossover episode no one saw coming. We all knew our place, and your dating pool was usually limited to a small, clique-approved circle. Navigating it was like a game of Pac-Man. One wrong move, and you'd get ghosted by your own friend group. But once in a while, love ignored the rules. And those unlikely matches, those were the ones everybody secretly rooted for. So whether you met at an amusement park, a restaurant, or through a personal ad, what really mattered was the spark. The connection that made you say, "This feels right," forever. Chapter 7. Was it better back then? Let's get real. Was dating better back then? Well, it's complicated. It could be exciting, flirting with a boy who actually flirted back. My first year of college, a guy picked me up right in the language center, surrounded by people with headphones on. Nothing ever came of it, but hey, it felt flattering. Not so flattering was the other side of the coin, unreturned crushes. I'll never forget being on a drill team in a band trip when a boy I liked found out and didn't like me back. Ugh, heartbreak and tears followed. At least I had the girls on the bus home to comfort me. On the plus side, dating back then required real intention. People showed up face to face and actually put in the effort. It was like the Pina Colada song, except no one really answered a personal ad and accidentally met their own partner, right? There was no swiping, no endless scroll of options. Fewer choices, maybe, but that just made each one feel more meaningful. On the downside, there was a lot of pressure. Social circles were smaller, options limited, and there was no quick way to do a background check or sneak a peek at someone's Insta to avoid a weirdo. If things went south, there was no ghosting, just awkward run-ins at the local diner or school hallway. It was especially torturous for girls like me who hated hurting guys' feelings, so I often kept the truth to myself, that he was boring, rude, or just not that interesting. I've been on dates where I wanted to slip out early, but somehow stuck it out to the very end. Of course, I never saw those guys again. Back then, ghosting basically meant never returning their calls or laying eyes on them again, ever. Today's dating apps offer access and variety, but they can feel shallow and exhausting. We ghost, bench, and breadcrumb, leaving everyone wondering where they stand. Back then, things moved slower, but sometimes slow was sweet, full of anticipation and discovery. Dating back then had a different kind of magic, partly because of the slow burn. The thrill of anticipation was real. Waiting for a call or a handwritten note wasn't just patience, it was part of the romance. There was something unforgettable about the buildup, the nervous excitement before hearing that ring or opening that folded paper. And the memories, they came with tangible keepsakes, photos you waited weeks to develop unless you had a Polaroid land camera, mixtapes carefully crafted to say what words couldn't, and ticket stubs or programs from concerts, Broadway shows, and ball games, carefully saved like treasures in scrapbooks. These physical mementos made every moment feel lasting and real. Plus, there was an unspoken code to it all. You waited a few days before calling back, asked permission before a first kiss, and kept public displays of affection, or PDA, sweet and subtle. If the phone didn't ring, you were left in suspense. No text to clarify what went wrong, just silence and overthinking. Gossip and reputation held real weight in smaller social circles, making every dating decision feel a little riskier. These moments were rites of passage, etched into your memory for life. It wasn't perfect, but there was something undeniably sweet and sincere about how dating moved slower, yet felt more intentional. These days, we swipe and scroll. Back then, we had awkward slow dances, payphones, and shows like The Dating Game or Newlywed Game, convincing us it was totally normal to fall for someone after 3 ridiculous questions. Messy? Sure. But it made love feel like an adventure worth taking. So there you have it, a trip down memory lane, back to a time of romantic mixtapes, awkward payphone calls, and first dates that could make or break your social standing. From flirty glances to epic crushes to surviving truly awful dates, dating in the 70s and 80s had a charm all its own. Now it's your turn. How did you meet your sweetheart? Or what's the cringiest date you've ever survived? Did you pass notes in high school? Or have a poster on your wall of your celebrity crush? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear all the juicy, awkward, and adorable details. And if this trip down memory lane made you smile, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hang out here at Spective for more retro rewinds into the weird, wild, and wonderful world of the 70s and 80s. From payphones to push notifications, one thing hasn't changed. We're all just trying to connect. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, catch you on the flip side.